Well, hello there and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined today by the tall man, Paul Gorst. How are we, Paul?
Very good. I'm not being rude. I'm just putting our podcast on the various socials. Yeah. So I'm not being rude, but yes, I'm good. I'm good. A long wait for football's return, wasn't it? Or certainly Liverpool's return at least, but was it worth the wait? I suppose we're going to get stuck into that, aren't we?
The result was, wasn't it, Ian?
Mm.
How are you?
Okay, how are you, Joe?
I'm all right.
I can't work out. Those new glasses are the ones you've had for a while.
No, they are new glasses.
I thought so, yeah.
They're a sort of yellowy colour.
People who don't wear glasses don't understand what a big deal it is when you get a new pair of glasses, because in my case, you literally have to wear them almost all the time. So it's like an addition to your face. It's like having the same top on all the time. You wouldn't do that.
Didn't expect this start to the pod, to be honest. It's been a long time since we've podded together, the three of us.
No,
it is. Yeah. Some people believe that we're the dream team.
Some people. Anyway,
Julian Baxendale might in the comments.
Yeah, he might do.
Today.
Yeah, he's in the comments.
Is he?
Julian Baxendale is.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And it's a very strong name, but obviously at school it wasn't so strong. We remember. Remember.
Hello,
Kids
Julian.
are horrible, aren't they?
Well, anyway, before we start talk more about glasses and all those other things, let's say thank you to the people at NordVPN and tell them to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan. Go to nordvpn.com/bloodred and our link gives you 4 months extra on a 2-year plan. There's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box.
Do you know who uses NordVPN?
Who?
Arne Slot.
Does he? How do you know?
Because he was talking today in his press conference about watching the Arsenal game against Fulham, and they weren't actually on television, really, so... Maybe he's got a little
dodgy box.
Account.
He could have had someone come
Well,
to his
you're
dodgy
suggesting that of the Liverpool manager, and I'm suggesting he's a NordVPN subscriber.
Well, if he is a NordVPN, Arne, if you're listening, which I know you do, and you are a NordVPN subscriber, could you do us a little message? That would probably go down well. But that's great to hear. Otherwise, if you've got a dodgy box, we won't mention it again.
You definitely don't want a dodgy box.
No. But if you'd like to give us a like or subscribe or leave a comment or turn your phone on silent or give us some stars, ask a question, please do that. Please do that. You can email me questions. I'm always happy to take them by email, joe.rimmer@reachplc.com. We have one question only for today. I'm going to ask it now. Sam Williams, long-time friend of the pod, asks... Who on our desk is most likely to put in a tackle like James Tarkowski's yesterday?
100% Theo. 100% Theo.
Well, Theo wouldn't win the ball.
No.
And he wouldn't mean it either. He just like...
He's like the footballing equivalent of Scrappy Doo, isn't he, Theo?
Yeah.
It's like
Is Scrappy Doo one of the worst cartoon characters ever?
Than Scrappy Doo, I think.
What do you think? Scooby Doo went downhill when Scrappy Doo turned up.
I haven't got any strong opinions, but
I feel as though it was like one of those, it's on the way out. It's like, remember The Simpsons with Itchy, Scratchy and Poochie? It's like that.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. It was the minions of Scrapper, though, weren't it, to be fair to him?
Who's this?
Theo.
Scrappy?
No, I did mean Scrappy, but...
He's like a really bargain basement version of Lee Cattermole.
Yeah. Who are we about now?
Leo. Theo.
Leo. That's his name. Leo.
I don't wish to make this all about Theo's football ability. Hi, Theo. But
not his ability, just as
just his inability to.
I've only played football with him once, I think. Well, five-a-side anyway, and he turned up in tracksuit bottoms, and that was enough for me.
Was he in goal?
Someone like Gabba Corrali, tracksuit bottoms, and he played the whole time, and that was enough for me. I think.
Is this in the summer?
I can't remember, but you shouldn't play tracksuit bottoms.
No, that's poor. That's poor.
It's poor form. Sort it out. Right, that's it for the questions. So let's talk about the results.
Cheers, Sam.
Yeah, cheers for that, Sam. 1-0 Liverpool in the Merseyside derby. Gorsty, it means they need 13 points to secure a 20th league crown. It's a matter of when, not if, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is, and it has been for a number of weeks now, at least. We've sort of had this debate for months, haven't we, us three on this pod about, Arsenal and all that sort of stuff. But I think there was a couple of games, maybe about a month ago, where, trying to remember the sequence of it now, I think Arsenal get beat by West Ham, and then Liverpool go and beat Man City. Arsenal draw with Forest, and Liverpool beat Newcastle on the same night. And those 4 games is going to be where it was really taken away from Arsenal. So it has been when and not if for a number of weeks, and it definitely is now, isn't it? Liverpool closing in, Arsenal need them to lose, half of their remaining games, and they've only lost once all season, and that means that they've got to be flawless as well. we've just seen the news before we recorded that defender Gabriel is out for the season with a hamstring injury, making the.
So would you say the end of the season is out of reach for Gabriel? Ghosty?
Would you say that?
Don't rise to that.
It's quite good on a podcast.
I'm not bothered about repubbing it. The BBC do it.
His dreams did come true with that.
Yes. And if you ever make that a joke again,
is that all of them?
The lesser remembered tune with the 17, that one, which
that was actually quite. That was decent. I didn't mind that one. Yeah.
So yes, it has been a question of when, not if, and I think the players are still talking the good game as you'd expect them to about nothing's won yet and job's not done. Slot's saying the similar thing, but plans are being gently put in place behind the scenes about what a title celebration might look like across departments, shall we say. And it looks now as though Liverpool will win the league. It's just a case of where and when it's going to come, but whenever it does, it's going to be an incredible, I was going to say day, but it'll be an incredible sort of summer, won't it, for the club?
Can I just go back to E17? Remember Brian Harvey? He nearly ran himself over in his own car when he fell out of it. Who on the sports desk is most likely to do that?
Probably
I think it's Theo again. Yeah, I think it's Theo again. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Actually, Ghosty, you've probably got form for it.
Stop, drop, and roll.
You probably Velcro it together, wouldn't you?
No more. Let's get on with it. Let's move on.
Yeah. Joe Riley asks Ian, and it's not
Joe Riley, not the former Echo operative.
Ian, if Arsenal win on Saturday, should we be worried?
If Arsenal win on Saturday,
should we be worried?
Maybe not worried, but just I would no, because I fully expect Arsenal to win anyway. It is one of the hardest games that's left, to be fair.
So what you saying is they're no longer title favourites?
But hang on, you not listened to the last month or so. We've done that.
I haven't been here for the last month.
Well, we've noticed things have been looking good. Sound in it as well. No, I mean it's all on Liverpool now, isn't it? It's just a matter of getting it over the line. And I think we saw against Everton, they're not going to have too many tougher games than that one, purely because the way Everton set up, which was to spoil, which, to be fair, they did really well at it for the first half, at least, and created a few chances themselves. Beto was through at the post. And by the end, even David Moyes said, you couldn't really argue Liverpool with the better team, and they should be, because they are so far clear at the top of the Premier League. So, yeah, I mean, again, you look at Chelsea away, Fulham away, Tottenham at home, Crystal Palace at home, and Arsenal. They're all tricky games, but I don't think any of them will have the kind of emotional weight and clout. And the fact, as Ghosty said, it had been so long since Liverpool had last played, 17 days. It was 18 for Everton, but 17 days on the back of two really, really poor results in the sense, obviously, you've been knocked out of one competition that you thought you had a chance of winning, and then you've lost a final, which really, if you play at your best, or anywhere near your best, you are winning that one. And they fell massively short against Newcastle. So that's a long time to stew over it. And I think there's kind of maybe mentioned it on a podcast the other day, that there's kind of a disrespect for what Liverpool have achieved. I know that you've done something, or you're going to do something on it. I can't remember whether you've done it or not. No, in fact, it wasn't. It was Virgil van Dijk, wasn't it? Sorry to get you mixed up with Virgil van Dijk there.
You both
two
towering,
defensive presences.
Towering mix-on operatives.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. But he got asked by Michael Owen, didn't he? Saying you're only going to win the Premier League, and it's like, hang on, Liverpool have won one league title in 34 years up until this season. It's a massive deal, and just because it's not been won in a kind of incredibly exciting way, and it's not even been won like 5 years ago, where it was just insane the amount of points they were clear, and you were like, this is just one of the best teams ever, full stop.
25 at one point.
Exactly, yeah. So it's been kind of completely deserved if they finish it, which, as Ghosty said, they're going to have to lose half of their games and Arsenal to win all of theirs, which seems unlikely between now and May 25.
Yeah, because if you look back at the results before that week, the PSG and Newcastle week, I mean, it was 2-0 away at Man City. They beat Newcastle 2-0 at home, played well. Beat PSG away from home. I know they didn't play that well in that game, but they showed good resolve. And then things felt like they slowed down a bit, didn't they, against Southampton? They didn't play altogether that well against Southampton, but got over the line. But then I do think in the PSG game they played quite well.
Yeah, they did.
And they started the game well.
They played really well against PSG for the 80 of the 90 minutes. It was the extra time that finished them, really.
Kwanzaa hit the post, didn't he? They were
Salah had one off the line. Yeah. Salah had that was in the second half. Thinking in the first half as well, with Mendes off the line. Donnarumma makes a couple of good. Yeah, Liverpool played really well against PSG, and even more so considering the quality of PSG, who could easily win the Champions League this season, couldn't he? So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that I mean, it was a bad week in terms of results, as Doherty's just said, but the performance in one of those 2 games was certainly, good enough. Had they turned in that performance in the cup final, they probably would have won the cup.
If they perform like that in the next 8 games, they win probably almost every game. It's you've got no qualms about it. But it felt like a week that just totally took the wind out of Liverpool's sails. Even the players looked like they were sort of doubting themselves. So, what did you think of yesterday's performance? Was it a case of just doing enough to get through and that being enough? Does that make sense? Yeah,
I said on Monday's pod with Theo that Liverpool could probably benefit from a bit of an uneventful derby, just a bit of a standard regulation home win, and it almost sort of was. There was a few incidents in there that are always going to be talking points, like the Tarkowski challenge. Was Beto offside? If he takes that other one, that it's the post. All these sorts of talking points, but generally it was a bit of a ordinary sort of Merseyside derby. Liverpool win, without sort of playing brilliantly or getting out of second gear. So that was almost what the doctor ordered for Liverpool, just to get back to winning ways, and what was a difficult return after so long out and all the talk and noise around them not winning the previous 2. So all in all, it was close to ideal, as Slot would have wanted, really, I suppose. Yeah,
the clean sheet will do them some good, won't it, Dolly? And I know you want to talk about the performance of both last night's fullbacks.
Yeah, I mean, the clean sheet, I think they conceded against Southampton, didn't they? But they kept the clean sheet against City and against Newcastle. That's 3 out of 4 in the league. It's incredible to think that that's like about 13, feels like forever ago, doesn't it? Yeah,
which is the most.
The most, isn't it? Yeah. For a team that at times you think, defensively they need to tighten up a little bit, because when they've had a few games, I think it's 8, where they conceded at least 2. I think they conceded 3 against Newcastle, and there was a lot of 2-2 draws and a couple of 3-2 wins. But yeah, the fullbacks. I do deal with Andy Robertson first. I mean, we spoke to him before the League Cup final, actually, and he said, look, it's been a season where I've had some of my not best performances for Liverpool. He says, however, I think recently he's been doing okay. He said he was doing all right, and I thought he was right against PSG. Thought he was really good. Against Newcastle in the final, he's one of the few players who actually got anywhere near his proper level, and he kept going. And I thought against Everton, good game again. Didn't really make any mistakes, but he was always offering himself going forward, and good energy. But obviously, left back's his position, right back is not Curtis Jones's position. And following on from the derby in February, where obviously he gets sent off at the end. But I mean, I wrote something this morning about players don't often get a boost from being sent off, but it looked as his stock rose amongst some Liverpool fans who just liked the fact that he was just it showed that he cared about it, that he was getting involved in something like that. But he channeled that in a much more productive way on the pitch, because playing it right back against an Everton team, admittedly, I think our producer would agree, don't have the greatest quality at the moment going forward. You saw there was 1 or 2 opportunities where they could have better passed and they could have had a chance. But Everton, little bit targeted him, certainly in the first half, but just stood up to it. And I was just, the things that you sometimes criticise for, which is calmness and keeping hold of the ball, that's what helped Liverpool in this game. Yeah. Certainly from that position, because it just calmed things down a little bit in a derby, which you do need. You do need the fire and all that kind of stuff and the tackles. But there has to be occasions where you just slow it down, especially if you're winning, which Liverpool were for obviously the last half hour. And really did really well. And he put in a few good tackles. And I know it was given offside anyway, but there was a good clearance in the second half from a cross came in, and he kind of hooked his foot around. Yeah. And I know it was given offside. I actually don't think it probably was offside. I think it was just because immediately after that, Liverpool tried to clear it. It hit the ref. And I think he just...
That was very late on, wasn't it? It was like
I think his linesman just helped the ref out there by saying, no, it was offside anyway. Yeah. But no, Curtis, and I believe that Dino's now left the podcast.
Yeah, well, you didn't... I didn't think you said he was man of the match, so do you want to...
well, he is man of the match, yeah.
So there you go. So he
can do one. It was them 2 were the best 2 players for Liverpool, probably followed by Diaz and Jota, because obviously of his goal.
What I would say about Robertson is obviously there's been loads of talk this season about left backs, to the point where he's actually said on Scotland duty, I think at my club level we're getting linked to all the left backs in the world, and it was a bit of an exaggeration for effect to sort of maybe calm the noise down. But certainly Milos Kerkez at Bournemouth is the one who I believe Liverpool have been looking closely at. And for good reason, because he's had a really good season. But, even if they do bring him in, I don't necessarily think it's going to be a case of Robertson is suddenly plan B and he's the backup. Kerkez is still only 21, I think, maybe 22, and playing for a club with the demands of Liverpool is going to be totally different to what he's been used to. Obviously he's got time at AC Milan, but he never really played there as a regular or anything. So Robertson, even if he does have the strongest competition that he's ever had for a place next season, I think he's still got an important part to play in the next step under Arne Slot, and he's sort of proven that in the last, what would you say, 3 or 4 months.
Sorry, I'm just distracted by a question. I want to say something about Robertson myself. John O'Neill says, where is Theo? Could you ask him if he would be taking down his Klopp posters from his bedroom wall and replacing them with Slot posters? Or will Slot have to win some more trophies?
What's that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe he's watched old podcasts where he's done his things from home.
Yeah.
And,
Or, I mean, I thought Theo's walls were plastered with F1 posters. I would have thought that would be his thing.
Gabba Karai.
Yeah, or former players.
Yeah, Bolton, Stannis,
Jay Spearing,
on Robertson, I always have this feeling that because Liverpool have been so good this season, that his level hasn't quite been where it has in the past, and because he set such good standards, that the drop off isn't anywhere near as big as sort of people would have you believe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just enough to see that there is a difference between him, his old level, and this one. And I think that you're right, going into next season, it wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool bought a left back and he still started the season at left back.
No, I'd fully expect that to be the case, to be honest. I do think that he's admitted it himself, kind of towards the next stage of his career, which is one where at this level he's not going to be playing every single game. And I know there was a spell this season where he wasn't, but he's most definitely gone ahead of Tsimikas in the pecking order now. And I think that's pretty much definitive now. So that'll be one of the things that the manager will look to look at, and that they were already looking at a left back or a new left back to change things around there. I don't think there's any doubt if they had to choose which one to sell.
He's still only 31. He sometimes comes across as a little bit older than he is because he just feels like he's a bit of an old head. But he's 31, but he's been at Liverpool a while, hasn't he? And
how old do you think he feels?
See, to me, if he feels older, as in he just seems. I don't know whether because he's been at Liverpool for a while.
He's
been
mature. He's mature. He's one of the more
I was
seasoned.
just trying to put an age on it.
Yeah. But he's played well over 600 career games now, and that's a lot of mileage for a player with that type of style, bursting up and down the flank, particularly in a Jurgen Klopp team for so long. So I think at times it was understandable that there might have been a little bit of a half a yard lost, and it was certainly noticeable in. Gives away the penalty against Real Madrid. There's the poor touch and the sending off against Fulham. Yeah. The penalty against Southampton, which wasn't a penalty for me, but it was still a sort of ragged, loose challenge on the edge of the box. So there was 1 or 2 mistakes creeping into his game, but he certainly responded well in recent months, and he's still got a massive part to play. I think next season, even if Liverpool do sign a younger, less experienced fullback, as we expect.
You only gave him a 6, but I thought Ryan Gravenberch played well
7.
yesterday. Did you give him a 7?
Yeah.
Apologies.
It's okay.
Thought he played well yesterday, and it was a bit of a step back to where we've seen him.
I would go back to what you were saying before. That just reminded me of something. I think in the first half, Liverpool were a bit nervous and a bit unsure about themselves. I think there was a certain amount of that, and I think it was a bit windy down there first half, because there's no way I'm having Konate and Van Dijk making those kind of massive misreads if it wasn't like that. But what I think second half is Liverpool went out there and went, what are we doing? Let's just get out there and just win this game. Let's show that we actually won it, because that was the one criticism that was said of them after the Newcastle game, when Everton, to a certain degree, had that kind of approach where they were in Liverpool's faces and looking to knock them over. And Moyes, after the game, said second half it was the reverse. Liverpool got in our faces, and part of the reason for that was the amount of times they pressed higher up, and the amount of times Gravenberch would get the ball about 35 to 40 yards from goal, which is where the goal came from, because it was this attempted pass through to Diaz that ends up with Tarkowski making the interception, losing the ball, and then a couple of seconds later it's in the net.
Before we talk about the 2 decisions, Joe Riley's asked another question. He says it feels kind of weird knowing for some time now we're most likely going to win the league. Would you guys prefer to win this one on or off the pitch? I mean, the answer to that is
you want to see Liverpool do it, win a game, and then that confirms them as champions. Liverpool had the opposite 5 years ago, didn't they? Where Chelsea were playing Man City, and all the players were watching in Formby Hall, weren't they? Sort of gathering in their COVID bubble as it was at the time, and celebrated with the barbecue and all that sort of stuff, which was, it was nice to see all that footage, but it's still rather Liverpool winning on the pitch, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. You agree with that?
Yeah, but beggars can't be choosers. Just win it.
Yeah, just win it. Okay, the two decisions. Let's start with Tarkowski. I mean, there's just no arguments, is there? I mean, it is a red card all day long, every day long.
Yeah, I mean, that was Duncan Ferguson, wasn't it? What he said, the Glasgow strangling himself. When he's saying it, it's probably...
I will give you £5 as another bet if you go up to him and say that.
Where's Stefan Freund?
And he will give you 5 fingers.
Yes, he will, yeah. No, he'll treat me like I've tried to burgle his house.
You just keep digging. Keep digging. He's a lovely fella, Big Dunk.
He is, yeah.
Genuinely lovely fella.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Hart said on Match of the Day as well, he was a former teammate of Tarkowski, and he said, Tarkowski is my big mate, but I can't defend him on this one. It was a red card. And I think Micah Richards echoed that, and Ferguson said that. I haven't actually heard what Carragher said, but I imagine he sort of is on the same line. So, all the pundits are in agreement that it was definitely not a yellow card offence. It was worse than that. And it was bad, wasn't it? He gets the ball. There's no doubt about that. But does he need to follow in with that much of a lunge? No, he doesn't, does he? And, even Tarkowski said himself, hasn't he? He's apologised to Mac Allister. And I thought Mac Allister took it in good graces. He put a thing on Instagram, a picture of the challenge, which is one like 5 from the game. And I think the caption was something like, passions run high in these sorts of games. And it's clearly just shrugging it off. Hopefully he's okay. But yeah, it was definitely a red card.
I don't blame the referee for not sending him off at the time, but it's unforgivable that VAR looked at that and went, "Nah, that's okay," because I'm going to say in the old days, you know what I mean. That's not a foul. Well, maybe possibly is a foul, but it's not a red card. But those days
doesn't get away.
Those days are long gone, and everybody knows what the rules are. And there's a certain degree of, footballers aren't soft. He's basically gone in there, Tarkowski, to not leave one on him, but to, the old thing of let him know he's there kind of thing. Well, it's backfired, and there's no real reason for him to be going in that high. But for the Paul Tierney, wasn't it? For him to not send him off, having looked at it, and I know it took them 10 seconds to have a look, but he didn't need 10 seconds. 5 seconds would have been enough to go, right, that's enough. But no, I think that was a mistake. And for the second derby in a row, Tarkowski benefits from controversial VAR.
So what I'd say about it is, Paul Tierney looks at it, and he's got all the angles in the world to have a look at it, and he decides that the referee is right. The referee only gets one look at it in full speed, so you can sort of understand maybe.
I get the referee's seen the ball and probably
the ball's gone flying down that way, hasn't he? So you can maybe understand why the referee hasn't got it right. But this is exactly what VAR is brought in for. Primarily for player welfare, safety, and that wasn't, was it? That could have been a lot worse for Mac Allister, who thought it was okay to carry on. But when the VAR isn't wading in on that, you think, well, what's the point? Are they just in it to back each other? It's just to sort of just be each other's mates and have each other's back. It's not the correct use of VAR, is it? So it's not fit for purpose if this is how it's being applied, really.
That's. I mean, I've spoken on this podcast at length about. I hate some of the criticism of referees. I don't think any referee's got it in for any certain team, but I do think this is where, like you say, VAR falls down, because I was reading Dale Johnson on ESPN, always does this breakdown, and
you said the ref got it right.
He was essentially saying that what will have happened is the referee will have described it as reckless. They will have watched it back and gone, okay, well, his interpretation, because reckless is a yellow, isn't it? And his interpretation of reckless is correct. So they'll kind of go with him because that's how he's described it, rather than just use a bit of common sense and step in and go, it was reckless and it was dangerous and it could have caused real harm.
Common sense is the phrase isn't it?
But I think the problem with common sense and the problem with VAR is some people will never accept that. I just think this is why I just don't like VAR. We'd still be discussing it today if there was no VAR, but you at least could say the referee got one look at it, had to make a decision in the moment. That's a lot more difficult. But now for them to watch that back, Mac Allister could be real seriously hurt. And I think they could have just gone with that alone and said, you know what, he's thrown in a tackle there, his stud's up, and one of those players could have been really hurt.
The thing is, with the eye test, as it were, when you actually saw it at the time, even if you thought it was a fair tackle and he got the ball, which he did initially, you instantly went, ooh. Yeah, you could tell because you watch it all the time. And the thing is, VAR must have thought that, and the referee immediately, because they were immediately doing a check on it.
Yeah.
They're immediately doing a check on it. So they must have known that it's borderline.
But this is where I think they tie themselves in knots with, like, well, he's described it as reckless, so that therefore we've got to go with the language rather than just go, that's bad.
That's a terrible one.
And also,
100%.
Tierney's not really helped out. His referee, who's by all accounts is very highly rated, and he's come up through the ranks. So he's had a couple of Liverpool games already. Southampton, Liverpool, and Tottenham, Liverpool, I think it was. And he's, if that ends up being a red, I don't think anybody would have complained. There's the thing. If that's a red, no one complains. But because it's a yellow, a lot of people complaining. And what does that tell you?
And also as well, I don't think it should be one that we should just sweep under the rug because Liverpool won. It's nothing to do with the result of the game. And if we're arguing about it because Everton win 1-0 or whatever, then people will open us up to accusations of only saying it because Liverpool lost. No, it's just a terrible decision that shouldn't really be happening in this day and age where you've got all the video replays you want to get it right, regardless of what the result of the game is.
It reminded me a lot of Carragher on Nani. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
the body shape and everything was very similar.
Yeah.
But it was just a
went off
really,
in tears for that one, didn't he, Nani?
Yeah. It was just a really, really bad tackle, and he should have been punished. The other frustration for me is that because he gets a yellow, there's no punishment now. So
So I'm not saying get him banned for 5 games or anything.
But I'm sorry,
it's gone now. It's gone now.
I know, but I do think
it's gone for Liverpool. But
there's an element of. So let's say Mac Allister
needed
really
playing
hurt.
against Arsenal.
Well, true. Good point. No, don't punish him. No, actually, I don't know what he's talking about.
He did win the ball.
Yeah, he did win the ball. It's a lot of the ball.
You got to play 40 checks for this.
No, fair play to you, James Tarkowski. All the best for Saturday.
Can we do the goal?
Blood and thunder.
The goal. David Moyes very unhappy with the goal.
Yeah.
Arne Slot even admitting he doesn't like the rule. Do you like the rule?
No, it's terrible. And I remember it was Mbappe scored a goal. He was playing for France, and basically somebody put a ball through. Mbappe's miles offside, but because the defender goes, well, I can't trust the linesman or whoever to give this, so he gets in the way and ends up passing it to Mbappe, who scores, and it's like giving us a goal. Yeah. It's like that's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
this can't. But that was a couple of years ago. So that's the rule. So they don't like it, but we're gonna have to get on with it.
Yeah, I thought Slot was absolutely spot on actually, and what he said to Match of the Day, where he said he doesn't like the rule, but the rule is the rule. So, Tarkowski's not to know that Diaz is offside, so he obviously feels he has to go for it. And then less than a second later, Diaz is playing a lovely little backheel flick into Jota's path, and it's 1-0. So it's a daft rule. It shouldn't really be implemented or in place, and maybe it's something that IFAB or whoever makes these rules are going to look at some point. But yeah, I certainly don't like the rule, but Jordan Pickford said after the game that Everton deserve an explanation for why the goal stood, and the explanation is that is the rule.
Yeah.
But it's not a good one.
It was a bit daft of him to say that, wasn't it? It was a bit daft for him to take out Darwin Núñez when the game had already been stopped. I mean,
Núñez got booked instead.
They're kicking the ball away.
No, for rolling back.
For rolling back on the pitch. He was shoved back on by Mac Allister, wasn't he?
But no, I think didn't Mac Allister shove him back? I don't know.
But
yeah.
So he gets booked for coming on the pitch. Yeah. Okay.
But I do, going back to the offside, I also dislike the rule. And further than that, I don't like, they play things out and then players go in with the goalkeeper, don't they? And then I've seen as well
rules we don't like podcasting but go on for some time.
The other frustrating one is when there's someone clearly offside, they don't give it, and then they win a corner and take the corner. It's you're then getting an advantage from an offside.
Does that happen?
Yeah, it does. Because if the play moves on, then they sort of go, well, that was 2 phases ago.
Different phase or whatever.
But if someone is offside, they should just be offside. They get an advantage from being beyond the last defender, and I just don't really understand. I don't understand the rule.
It wasn't a great night for the officials, was it?
No, but they'll learn from it, hopefully. Well, I didn't realise that Tierney's not refereed. He's got a long-term injury, which is why he's become a VAR specialist.
Really?
Yeah, I read that today.
Yeah. Should do a piece. No. Yeah. Interesting. But we move on. So, as Joe Riley's just asked, do you want Liverpool to win it? Yes, we want Liverpool to win it with a result. When do you think they could win it?
So they need 13 points, don't they? But essentially they've got a vastly superior goal difference. So, I mean, everything's pointing towards maybe, what is it, the Chelsea game, isn't it, on the 4th of May? if both teams carry on winning their games, I think that will be the one where Liverpool win it. Any slip-ups from Arsenal gives Liverpool a chance to win it at Anfield against Tottenham in late April.
Liverpool could win it then anyway. They couldn't if they won every game. Liverpool.
So,
oh no, they would. No, they did. That would take
yeah,
them to 12. Yeah,
that's
sorry.
4 games from now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's looking like it's going to be maybe early May at least.
I think it will come down to the Arsenal game.
I think it'll be the Arsenal game as well.
Yeah, I think both teams will slip up. I think Carragher said last night that he thought that both teams could drop points at the weekend. That can they go along with that? Could see them both drawing maybe, and I think there will be some of that before they get.
Yeah,
to that
I'm not sure who Arsenal play when Liverpool go to Chelsea, but they haven't got a massively great record at Chelsea, have they? So that could quite easily be a draw. So yeah, but they will get over the line at some stage. But it's looking like now it's going to be sort of late April, early May. For me, anyway.
Yeah, and Sloth held his press conference today.
He did. Unhelpful,
but he said some interesting things, didn't he? And one thing that he did say, one thing that he did say was about Curtis Jones to take the conversation back to him.
Yeah.
He talked about. You noticed it immediately. I didn't notice it at the time, but he talked about that's the sort of player that him and Richard Hughes have been discussing to sign.
Yeah, I think it was more like they are looking at some players who are versatile, which would suggest that they're only going to sign one player who can do everything. That's not what I'm saying. Don't clip that. Whatever you do. I'm talking to you there. I think they kind of just point out that you need players like that. It's interesting that he says that when he first came in, he says we want 2 players for every single position, and he had very defined roles for everybody, and I think he's kind of realised that that's great, but in an ideal world, you do need players who can play in. Not every player is going to be able to do what Curtis Jones does. He's played left side of attack in all 3 positions in midfield, and now he's played right back. That's this season. So, he's the kind of player who, and he's got it in the England squad. This is the kind of player, until I just mentioned before about the Everton game, there were some fans who still weren't convinced by him as a Liverpool player. And it's like, well, hang on, Jurgen Klopp kept him in the squad, got a new contract, brought him through. Arne Slot is now playing him in various positions in big games, and the England manager Thomas Tuchel is picking him for World Cup qualifiers. So this is a really top quality player. He's turned 24 in January, and he's just not even probably till 2 or 3 years away from his prime. And because he's not played every single game like some of the other younger players coming through, he's probably got loads of life in his leg. He can go 31, 32. He's never been supremely quick, but he's great on the ball. He's got good game intelligence. As Slot was saying during the press conference, he loves a challenge in the sense that if you say to him, and he never mentioned him by name, but essentially he just said,
Cole
"Look,
Palmer.
you're gonna mark Cole Palmer today. Do you fancy it?" And he's like, "Too right." So
but he said you're gonna mark the best English player who's under 21, didn't he? And it was almost like it was almost like Jones to say, "Well, that's me."
Yeah.
I'll ride to that.
So that was like a little bit of insight into good man management from Slot and the way that he would deal with players.
But it's interesting that you said, though, that there's not every player likes that kind of thing. Some just like to play. You don't like to be taken out of the comfort zone. But I think that's just the way Curtis has gone through his entire career so far at Liverpool. He's had to overcome some rather odd injuries. Remember the eye one that he got up when he had a really good game against Porto in the Champions League. And that was 3.5 years ago.
It was interesting he mentioned Richard Hughes for that, wasn't it? When he got asked about Jones, it was almost like they've probably recently held a meeting where it was like, we're keeping these, and
because it wasn't just no one had even mentioned it. He just mentioned it out of nothing. He just brought it up himself. So I do think that just gave you a little bit of insight into they're looking probably some 1 or 2 utility players for the summer. Yeah,
and I think, I always think of when I think players like Curtis Jones. I think someone the other week asked me, a fan of another club, is Curtis Jones any good? And I said yes, and I talked about how Darren Fletcher was always someone that was in and around the United squad. They'd be winning titles. He'd play. He wouldn't play every game. He wouldn't be selected every single week, but he had an important role. And title-winning squads need those sorts of players. When Liverpool won it in 2020, Adam Lallana was still there, wasn't he? And I remember him playing several games. He scored the equaliser, didn't he, at Old Trafford? And it's about having a squad of players who can come in and even when they're not selected every week, play a role in a title win.
Yeah, and you look at what he did last night. He could easily play there Sunday. He could play there for another 2 weeks, couldn't he? Depending on Conor Bradley's fitness. if Slot prefers to have someone who's a bit better in possession than Kwanzaa, with respect, in those areas. But also, he's pretty much starting as a number 9 against Man City, and had it not been for Szoboszlai being slightly offside, he'd have scored. And, he's just a bit of a Swiss Army knife of a player, isn't he? And we spoke to Andy Robertson after the game last night, and that was something that he was alluding to. And I think he mentioned all the positions that he's played in, and I said to him, mess about, he'll be in goal next. And he has pretty much played everywhere, hasn't he? And I think we're finally starting to see what type of player Curtis Jones is. There was quite a lot of talk for years over what he brings to the team. Maybe held on to it a little bit too long at times. Obviously come through the academy as a left winger, didn't he? And like almost like a front 3. But yeah, he's just become a little bit of a maybe jack of all trades is a bit damning him with faint praise. But he's been comfortable playing deep. He's been comfortable as a number 10. He did well last night as a right back. We was just mentioning about him playing almost as a bit of a centre forward. So yeah, he's been huge this season, and delighted for him, really. It's always good to see Scouse lads in the team doing well.
I think he's been more of a slow burner, hasn't he, like Carragher compared to Gerrard in that sense.
Yeah. Just going back to right back though, Ghosty, you said something before we came on air that I thought bears discussion. I do think Liverpool last night lacked a little bit creativity. Yeah. And you're missing Trent.
Yeah, I mean, we said that. I thought Trent had the bit between his teeth against PSG just before he got injured, and had he not come off injured, he might have put in a telling contribution in normal time. Liverpool massively missed him in the cup final. Every time the ball got shuffled out wide right to Kwanzaa, Newcastle weren't too troubled by it. It's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it, with Trent when he gets it, and you're almost looking to see where the chance is and where the pass is on. And yeah, and I felt at times he missed them, certainly first half. He just brings a different type of invention to the team, doesn't he, whenever he's got it with his incredible array of passes. So, yeah, he was missed. But it's weird to say he was missed and that Jones played really well at the same time. Both can be true.
It's a different style of play, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a bit of a short-term problem for Liverpool not having Trent, but it's a longer-term concern, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Trent is still the playmaker from the team. Yeah. Even if he hasn't quite been getting the same amount of direct assists, he's still an awful lot of goals that he's been involved in, whether it's at the start of it or kind of towards the end. And I think, should he go to the Devils Club at the end of the season? That's Real Madrid for anybody who doesn't understand simple concepts.
Where do they rank in your dislike? Because
Real Madrid are like way beyond everybody else. They've gone. They're out. They've legged it.
You're saying it's loyalty of Alali, are you?
Name me somebody from England who would say that.
Mate or traitor?
Mate or traitor? I mean,
just. By the way, whoever did that is
hang
your head in shame.
Exactly. You've let yourself down. Yeah. You've let your family down. You've let your people down.
Just going back to your not so much a rational dislike of clubs, but I can never work out.
It's very rational.
Do you like Tottenham or dislike Tottenham? And do you like
Arsenal?
I
just kind of pity Tottenham.
I don't know why you always poke Tottenham. I don't really know why.
That's different. But there's nothing vengeful against Tottenham.
You always poke Arsenal as well. Do you dislike Arsenal?
Not since they give me the coat.
You give me the true answer and give me the you're on an Arsenal podcast answer. Because we know that you're forced sometimes to go on them.
Hang on, right. What I would say about Tottenham for a long time were a complete waste of space, right? Let's be honest.
For a long time?
Yeah, for a long time. Well, they got to a Champions League final 6 years ago.
That is true.
People forget what a massive deal that was, right?
That's true. Thank God that they did.
And Arsenal, for a long time, just why? And they've got a lot nearer to explaining why they are, and they could still do it this season. If Liverpool fall over towards the end, but it doesn't look like it given all the injuries that they're having at the moment, which are actual injuries as opposed to injuries at the start of the season, which weren't really.
Clip the same for the Arsenal crowd.
Yeah, do that. But yeah, Real Madrid, do we have to do this? It's supposed to be a cheery podcast. I want to talk about Liverpool, not about these old teams that just annoy. You've got me annoyed now.
Yeah, I just want.
Come on.
Plus, I'm trying to kill some time. Right, let's pick our teams. I'm about to say pick our teams and make some predictions for Fulham, who are a bit of a tricky test the weekend, aren't they? They've been in fairly poor form recently.
Yeah, I watched them against Palace in the Cup, and Palace were a lot better than them once they got to grips with the game. Yeah. A lot more decisive. I didn't see them against Arsenal the other night, as I don't have the capabilities of Arne Slot's Digibox. So
hang on, but you got NordVPN.
I know that is true, yeah. But I was watching United. Yeah, I don't know really. There's just they are almost the archetypal mid-table club, aren't they? Fulham. They've got some nice players. You can turn it on when the mood takes them, but they're also beatable as well. So I don't really know where to land on this one, but I think Liverpool are good enough to beat them if they turn up. It's not exactly one of the most intimidating places to go this season. Is a Craven Cottage. Always a bit of a nice day out by the Thames, really. Walking through. So I think Liverpool have got enough to beat them. I think Wednesday night, Sunday afternoon turnaround's not the worst. So yeah, I think Liverpool will win this one.
Yeah.
So I'm just going through the teams. It's like they kind of like come in and out of needless like and dislike of them.
You said you want to move on from this conversation.
You've got me. You got me like Forest, for example, a couple of years ago.
You can think it
Leicester,
through whilst
those, you know what I mean? It's like, and now I'm not massively. I actually quite like certainly Forest the team. Anyways, we're going off on one again.
Yeah.
Fulham. Lovely place to go.
Lovely
place to go to. Yeah.
It's a very different question, but I'll quickly ask it from Matthew Gorman.
Go.
Great show, lads. Thank you, Matthew. How many players will have to be recruited in the summer? And do you think the owners will give Richard Hughes and Julian Ward the budget that's required? I don't think Julian Ward is involved in Liverpool transfers. He's in the FSG side with Michael Edwards. But yeah, I mean, I'd say quite a few players this summer.
A lot depends on these contracts. We expect one of the three to go. I still expect two of them to stay. So that will mean that Liverpool won't need to recruit for two of their best players departing, two of their legendary, iconic figures departing. So I don't know really. They'll get a left back. They should get a number 9. I think they still need another midfielder if Wataru Endo is just absolutely not even slightly trusted to do anything other than see out a game with 10 minutes to go.
He's good at it though.
Yeah, no, he's a specialist.
Who has his best moment of the season and then back to
the
bench.
There's 3, and then I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5.
I think minimum form, wouldn't be surprised if it was many as 7.
Could be a bit of a 2018 summer where it's quite a significant change. When we signed Naby Keita and Shaqiri, Alisson, Fabinho, could be one of those.
Budget-wise, I still think there'll probably have to be some sales and/or contract off the.
If Nunes goes, there's
the prize money for winning the Premier League is quite good though. I think it's 120 something million.
But they got 130 million for finishing third last year, so I don't think the difference between finishing first and third is massive, to be honest. Everyone gets loads of money. However, if you go in that Club World Cup, you get loads.
Should we pick our teams and make a prediction for Fulham before we go? Gorsty, I'll let you start. Alisson could be back in goal.
I think Alisson will be. Made no bones about it, didn't he? In terms of if he ticks all the protocol boxes, he's back in. Yeah, I'm sticking with Jones at right back. In fact, I'm sticking with the back 4. Yeah, I haven't really got anyone else to throw in.
Kelleher, can we not talk about Kelleher very briefly?
I
think it's the third time he's come in this season for Alisson. I think it was the home game against Bournemouth, was it? Where they won 3-0, and then obviously Alisson got injured against Palace. He was in for a few months, and then he's come in again for games that aren't League Cup games or FA Cup games. So should Liverpool go on to win the league, he's played a massive part, just probably as much a part as Alisson's played. But if Alisson's fit, he's going in goal.
I think it says a lot though that we don't talk about
exactly.
Yeah,
that's why I wanted to say. Quanta right back, by the way. Play Quanta right back. I think they're going to need a more defensive one because they can always move things around should they need something a bit different later in the game. Konate, Van Dijk and Robertson, yes.
I'd still go Jones at right back because I think they can get up Fulham. And if they use the ball well, which he did, they could be they could find success. In your midfield?
Well, I put Curtis Jones instead of Szoboszlai.
Okay.
I think Szoboszlai was probably the one player who, according to the guy who was next to the press box, who absolutely detested almost every single thing Liverpool did. I'm amazed that he didn't say about the goal, we haven't celebrated that properly. That kind of thing. Oh, he was relentless with his negativity. And that's coming from me. Right. Yeah. So I think Szoboszlai, though, he had a good engine, but didn't really have his most effective game. Effectual game? Anyway. And obviously Mac Allister, if he's okay, because I know he played the game, but Slot said sometimes you can get by on adrenaline, and Gravenberg can play again. I'm very tempted to put Harvey Elliott in just to listen to the Fulham fans boo him.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem as though Slot doesn't have a lot of trust in anyone other than the sort of four, doesn't it? And if Jones is playing right back, then he's probably going to stick with the three. So
I just can't see him putting Elliott in.
No, not just on a whim, not just for the sake of it. I mean, we could play devil's advocate and see maybe he deserves a chance, but I don't think he will. I think he'll stick with who played on Wednesday.
Yeah, same. And finish with your forward line.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Gakpo get a little bit of a run. It's been a while now since he's looked at the level he was at before he got that ankle injury against Everton at Goodison. If he is back fit, he has been scoring for Holland. Let's give him a little bit of a go and keep Jota in. And it might go on a little bit of a hot streak now, mightn't he? And then obviously Salah starts. So Gakpo for Diaz.
Same,
yeah. I do the same. Although I thought Diaz did do well. Not so much his final product, but certainly taking the ball to Everton. He does great, doesn't he, Diaz, at getting the ball and moving Liverpool up the pitch constantly.
Well, it's the same, same as Salah. That's what he did. I mean, I know Salah didn't really get much out of Mikalenko, but the point is that he kept on going and going and going and going, and Diaz ended up doing that and playing a part in the goal. Yeah, so it's difficult to take Diaz out, but then I think if anyone's tired after Wednesday night, it will probably be him. So yeah, I put Gakpo in, and Jota I didn't think necessarily played that well, but took his goal.
His goal was brilliant.
So well, and that is vintage Jota, isn't it? When he does things like that, you forgive a lot of the approach play and perhaps
he's a striker. That's what he's there to do. Score.
So I would keep him in the hope that he does go off.
The touches he took inside the box were brilliant, just to sort of take it away from Tarkowski, and then enough, to go centrally to set himself up for the shot. Gives Pickford the eyes, and Slot was talking today, wasn't he, about Jota having that coolness that not a lot of other players have got. Some players, when they get in shooting opportunities, they sort of see the bright lights and they panic a bit and rush it. And I don't know who he was referring to specifically there, maybe Darwin Núñez, but Jota very cool.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I was thinking when he said, he's not going to be saying that about a centre mid, is he? So
what I loved about the finish is it's like a five-a-side sort of like finish, isn't it? Just like
stick it away and
that is the sort of thing you think you can immediately see Núñez putting that over the bar or trying to carry it into the top corner and
thrashing at it and taking it early. Or
lots of Jota's goals are just sort of like down the middle, but the goalkeeper can't get down and the defenders can't get to it.
It was a very similar goal to the one he equalised against Fulham, wasn't it?
I'm glad Slot mentioned that because I wrote that in my stuff this morning as well. So
you must have read it.
Me and Slot, same.
Well,
same her. Anyway.
You've been proven right. Can be proven right by your prediction for the weekend.
I just want the season to be over, so 2-1 to Liverpool.
2-1 to Liverpool.
Don't know why that makes the season be over any quicker.
Yeah, because they'll win the league as soon as possible, and then we can just put our feet up for the last 5 games.
Oh, okay.
4 games.
You don't have any part to play in this league. Ian's work rate on Wednesday night was excellent. But Ian ran himself into the ground in the press box. Yeah,
never present in these Premier League games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm the only one.
That is some effort. The marathon man. Yeah, 2-0.
I'm going to say 2-1. Yeah, I think. But I do think
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And that is all we've got time for. We will be back on Monday. Yep, we'll be back on Monday. Liverpool.com are recording tomorrow for another podcast. Back on Monday to talk Fulham and to look ahead to West Ham.
We're in another week's time. Before we go any further, before we say goodbye, did you press record? Excellent. Well
done. Good news. Right. Have a nice weekend. Ta-ra.